I wanted to go back to the psychology of the people who voted for Donald Trump to try to open a window to my audience to the reasoning behind their decision making. And this goes back to something we're going to get into a little bit later in the video about how to manipulate people in a way that you can guarantee that they will choose a certain outcome. And it goes to this article here from Big Think. It's about decisions being emotional, and I just want to go down to, you can read this for yourself. It's at bigthink.com, Experts Corner, Decisions Are Emotional. Pretty easy to find for yourself. And what it basically states here is that, I'm just going to read this part for you. This finding has enormous implications for negotiations professionals. People who believe they can build a case for their side using reason are doomed to be poor negotiators because they don't understand the real factors that are driving the other party to come to a decision. Those who base their negotiation strategy on logic end up relying on assumptions, guesses, and opinions. If my side of the argument is logical, they figure, then the other side can't argue with it and is bound to come around to my way of thinking. The problem is you can't assume that the other party will see things your way. And this is exactly the mental state that Donald Trump has become incredibly good at exploiting. And he wrote an entire book about it called The Art of the Deal. And I'm going to go through the chapters of that briefly to show you how he got himself elected president. We're now in a state with Trump supporter that's just beginning called buyer's remorse. That they're going to very shortly start to realize they've been had by one of the greatest con men that has ever walked the planet. The man came from almost nothing, and I know there's this thing out there where he inherited so much money, but honestly, if even on the highest reports of 200 million, and now he's an estimated worth, at one point anyway, was worth 10 billion. If you do the exponential math on that, I don't think any other person can say if they were given that kind of money that they could have turned it into what he turned it into. That's the equivalent of turning $200 into $10,000, which would be an incredible feat. So whether he's worth that or not, I don't want to turn this video into a debate over, but the fact that the man has been able to take one aspect of a person's psyche and manipulate it for his own profit is not in debate here. But you can also read this, and it pretty much talks about cognitive dissonance and how Trump supporters were unable to, based on the massive amount of information they were receiving, make a decision in any other format than emotion. And if they weren't able to recognize what was happening to them, they were powerless. They were just caught in a sway. So without any further ado, we're going to go to the wiki for Trump's Art of the Deal, and we're just going to talk about these chapters briefly and go over how each one of them played itself out in the election cycle. Number one, think big. I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. The man, while he was a billionaire, wasn't one of the more wealthy billionaires. There were a great many people out there that had a lot more money than Donald Trump did. But he aspired to become the most powerful executive in the free world. And he was able to do it. That was his goal, and he achieved it. Number two, protect the downside and the upside will take care of itself. Even if Donald Trump had lost, he had Trump TV all set up and ready to go, and he knew because of the emotion-based support that he had that he would have this giant viewership ready to pay $8.99, $10.99, maybe $12.99 a month to have Trump TV on their Roku or whatever particular provider they had chosen. Number three, maximize your options. Well, we saw that during the primary. If anybody had watched the Republican primary, he was the master of the statement, I'll look at it at the time. And we saw that he did not want to be boxed in or give any commitments, and the commitments that he did give were not worth the paper they were written on, and we saw that in a video a month ago or so where I show how he broke his pledge to the Republican Party. So he always did. He always had the option to run, not run by himself, run as a Republican, maybe support the Democrats, you never know. Number 4, know your market. This this was the linchpin for him. He knew the group of people he was speaking to. He really did. This man had been a Democrat for some time in his life, had been a Republican. He was very, very adept at ascertaining the emotional state of the American people at the time, and he knew exactly when to make his move. And he knew that these people would not use logic, they would not use reason to back him up. They would simply use that emotion, fear, and frustration and anger that had built up over the last 8 years to follow him. 5, use your leverage. Well, what was the biggest leverage piece that Donald Trump had? The fact that he was a billionaire. He could come out there and say, you know what? If I win, great. If I don't win, great. I can get on my own jet and fly anywhere and land anywhere and have a rally and just announce it ahead of time, and I can use my ability to manipulate the media and my history or notoriety, I should say, to be able to bring people into an area that causes media coverage. That was simple. 6, enhance your location. What was Donald Trump's location? His location was simply wherever he wanted it to be. When people decided to go see Donald Trump, he had his banners up everywhere, and he had his, like I said before, his jet in the background, and Trump Tower, and all of the different properties that he owns around the world, all fed into the idea that the man was a successful billionaire, and he was a successful businessman, and that's what made him the uber best Republican ever, because that's the God they had chosen to worship over the last 10 to 15 to 20 years. 7, get the word out. Once again, fantastic job by Mr. Trump in this particular case. He was able to, by fostering the idea that he was just a clown with CNN, he got them to, during the primary, give him all of the coverage possible because they thought for sure he was going to be defeated by Hillary Clinton. They were operating under the mistaken mentality that I had covered earlier about thinking that their voters would operate from a logical place and not a emotional one. Fight back. When he was attacked by the Republican Party, he got into finger pointing and name calling. He used his Twitter account, and we had Little Marco and Lying Ted and Low Energy Jeb and all this stuff, and he I'm sorry folks, he knew that would work. He knew that would work with his base, and it did, and we saw it. And you cannot debate a Trump supporter because they operate from a place of emotion. You could make up file folders full of facts and things that he said and things that he's done, and they are never going to regard any of it as truth because it doesn't agree with the emotional state that they're in. And it's going to start to go away here, and it's going to be a very difficult time for them. Deliver the goods. Now, here is something that a lot of people didn't realize when they voted for the man. The goods in this case was simply the election win, not 8 years of a presidency. All that he was promising was an election win. So once again, from his end, the contract is over. He provided the election win. Never once did he, he said some things that he would allegedly want to do with his administration, but the idea behind the support was simply beat Hillary Clinton. Don't let Hillary Clinton be president. And from his end, he has delivered what they wanted. They got the chance to high-five themselves and drink beer to the fact on November 7th they thought they won an election, and that's what he promised to deliver them that night of victory and that feeling of winning. 10, contain the costs. That's what his next 4 years is going to be about. Not following through on any of the promises. He is going to just go into a mode where he's going to find excuses for not doing what he said he was going to do. I think what we're going to see is probably some silly little photo op where he has some bricklayers in the background down in the border somewhere in Arizona or Texas, and he's going to talk about starting the wall, and it's just going to be that. It's going to be this little, photo op so people can see, oh, look, he's actually starting the wall. And then we're going to see the issue with the economy beginning to degrade, that he's going to come out and say that instead of deporting people, he's going to say they're self-deporting. He's going to say, look, the illegal aliens are, out of fear of being deported, they're already just going back to Mexico by themselves, so we don't even have to bother deporting them. That's going to be his play on that. Hillary Clinton, he's not going to do a thing about that. He's already said he's not going to do a thing about that. And he's going to defer that to the people that are, in law enforcement. He's going to say, look, I thought it was going to be something we could do, but they're telling me they can't. So, who am I to go against the law? So, and he's going to use some kind of an excuse like that for every single thing he backtracks on. Same thing with Obamacare, all of it. And number 11, have fun. Well, I can guarantee you this, Donald Trump is going to have a lot of fun with the American people over the next 4 years. Absolutely, he is. That's going to be what drives the entire thing. He's going to find different people to poke fun at and make fun of, and keep his supporters, in the mode of bully and laughing and pointing fingers. And it still comes to my videos, which is fine. They can click and point fingers all they want. I don't really care. So this is what I wanted this video to be about, a little longer than I had hoped it would go, but you can look at this for yourself and analyze buyer's remorse, emotional decisions, and Trump's art of the deal, and you can put it all together for yourself, and you can see that this is exactly what's happened. So anyway, leading up to the New Year's, thank you everybody. Like, share, subscribe. Appreciate the channel. You guys have been fantastic with the support. Keep it going, and we will try to have discussions here that are thoughtful and intelligent and relevant. So take care. Have a Happy New Year.